Good morning, everyone. Stephen Torres here, the director of Career Lab. Really excited to be with today's stream. Of course, I'm here with
I'm Sean O'Keefe. I'm the founder and Chief Impact Officer at Career Launch, and we're bringing you this student stream as a opportunity for students who are not attending one of our partner colleges to learn about the Career Launch method and the impact it's had on other students.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sean. Hello. And today we are joined by special guest, Ashley Landers. Ashley, welcome to the program, to the stream today. How are you?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm doing well. How are you guys doing today?
Doing really good. We're excited because Ashley is one of the original students going back to 2015, going through this process with Sean. And so excited to kind of hear this story and hopefully inspire some of you out there to find your journey that's right for you. So Ashley, let's talk about this. How did you find out about Sean's class? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I actually took Sean's class as a freshman. So that was in 2011. It was a business prerequisite at Santa Clara. And I just happened to be in Sean's class. And I knew right away that I was going to like him as a professor because at the time I was really into quotes. And at the end of all of his classes, he would print out like inspirational quotes or kind of motivational quotes on cardstock and send everybody home with them. I was trying to find one before today, but I'm sure they're somewhere in my files still.
So 2011. Oh my gosh, I had 2015. That's so you were a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I love that quote idea, Sean. That's brilliant. Whoever taught you that is amazing. Just kidding. It's funny because we used to do that in our office all the time. So that's really fantastic. What was it about that, Ashley, that you found so inspiring?
It was different. First of all, nobody had ever done it, and it just happened to be into that at the time. I was always looking at different, motivational quotes and inspirational quotes. So that resonated with me. And then one of, the first things he talked about was working at the A's, and I was a big sports fan. So just kind of connected on those things at the time.
Okay, fantastic. And when you were going through that first class, what was that first class?
I forget what it's called, Business 71, but it was I think a business leadership class, if I remember correctly.
Okay, that's fantastic. And at that time, the career launch method was just kind of forming. I'm curious, as you were going through that and you kind of saw what Sean was doing, what were the points, if you can remember back, that really resonated with you? You mentioned it was different. There was some commonality. But were there any other things that early on really resonated?
The number one thing I remember is when, at the time, Sean's assignment was informational interviews. I know that the Career Launch Method calls it career conversations now. But I just remember that was one of our first assignments in his class. He told us we were going to have this responsibility to set up informational interviews to learn more about what we wanted to do. And, freshman me, eyes probably got this big because how am I going to do that? Who am I going to talk to? I didn't know at all what I wanted to do at the time. So that just really stuck out to me and turned out to be the best thing that ever could have happened.
So Ashley, I want to talk about this because I think there's a lot of students who are in the same mindset. You said that you didn't know how you were going to do it. What were you going to do? Do you remember as you were going through this, what were the feelings?
I mean, nervous first and foremost. I was nervous about one, just having the interviews, setting them up, and then two, figuring out who I was even going to talk to. Because at the time I was just a freshman, didn't even know what my major was going to be, wasn't sure what I wanted to do at all. So who should I even reach out to? What types of organizations should I reach out to? I think that was kind of the initial concern for me from the assignment.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome. And then as you started going through this, what happened?
Yeah. So Sean did one-on-ones with all of his students for, just 5-10 minutes in the class period to help us, navigate those things. Who are you going to talk to? Who are you going to reach out to? And I told him I have no idea. And he said, well, what are you interested in? What would you be doing for fun? What are those things? And that's kind of when we connected on sports. I said I was always at sporting events anyway. So he said start there and reach out to, people in the sports industry. Obviously in the Bay Area, there's a lot of places to go and a lot of people to talk to. And through that conversation is when I started making the list, and was fortunate enough at the time to get to go do interviews with people at the 49ers, the Sharks, the Raiders. And as a freshman walking into those places, I was fortunate enough to be able to go to their campuses.
Yeah.
What a cool feeling. Like, I shouldn't be allowed to do this.
Well, I think what's so exciting about, your story here is, and I think a lot of people will resonate with this, is, as I said earlier, there's so many students who feel that same way, that apprehension that, do I belong? There's just so much going on, right? And you had, a professor who is willing to kind of walk you through this. Sean, I'm curious from your perspective, and this is kind of get into a pedagogical thing here, but why did you have students do that stuff?
Yeah, well, I think when we're in in middle school or maybe elementary school students for some, we have a teacher put a infographic on the board at some point, and it's like a pyramid of like the levels of learning, and sometimes it's pictured as an inverted pyramid, and it talks about the different modes of learning, hearing, seeing, and as you move up the pyramid, as far as high impact learning practices, one of the top two are learn by doing and then learn by teaching. And so in a classroom setting, the greatest form of impact learning is having students do. And so it's one thing to teach the value of building relationships with professionals and how beneficial that could be conceptually. But it's another thing to talk about it conceptually and then ask students to go do it. And the great part about having it as a class assignment is that students have to do it because it's part of their grade. Now, anyone listening out there right now, you chose to invest time today to listen in on this, into this live stream, because you have a hunch that this stuff will matter and can matter and make a difference in your life. And so I would encourage you, well, number one is, to learn the method, the 8 steps of the Career Launch method, and start implementing this approach to building relationships. And then, to learn it and then take action, because that's what matters most. So from a pedagogical standpoint, it just knowing that, truly making a difference in students' lives, which I am passionate about. The best way to do that is for students to take action and not just learn conceptually and theoretically.
Oh, yeah.
I muted myself. You see that? I just did the Zoom thing on a live stream. As a student, you said that this was unique and nobody else was doing this. How did you feel as you were going through, like, actually doing the act? Because many times in higher education, you're learning a lot of philosophy, concepts, all these things, the theory behind it, but the actual practice doesn't happen till later. Here you were in a class, practicing, doing it. Tell me what that was like.
Well, I guess I'll go back to nervous and nerve-wracking at first, but then after the first one, you realize, okay, these are the things I should have done. I shouldn't have been so nervous. They're trying to help me, so I shouldn't be nervous about that. They're excited to, be talking to me as a student and share their experience. And then from there, it just got fun and exciting. And I forget how many we were required to do at the time, but I ended up doing more because it was just so interesting to learn about what these people were doing. Again, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I got to learn more about the options. At the time, who knew that I could work in sports and what I could, all the options that I could be doing. I didn't know if I wanted to go into sales, events, marketing. It was just so much fun, ultimately, to do those interviews.
Yeah.
So you're saying it was a means to explore different, not only industries, but job functions. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Through internships that I got kind of as a result of other connections, that helped me, narrow my focus into what I ultimately wanted to do for a career.
Yeah. So I think Sean, that was a really great point because this exploration process, it gets overlooked. And what I mean by that is I think a lot of students, and actually maybe it's different, but for you, but a lot of students feel like they have to know everything, right? That when you go to college, you're supposed to know what job you're going to get and what you want to do and have it all figured out, right? And here you are taking this class kind of like, I get to explore all this stuff. And so as you're doing this exploration, tell us a little bit about um, how that impacted eventually where you ended up. Because now we have, in retrospect, we can look back. But at the time, you didn't know where it was going to end up. So talk to us a little bit of, for other students out there about this exploration process.
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do, what was interesting to me. And I think really ultimately, it gave me the confidence to go seek out other internships and figure out through different connections who could I know or who did I know that could help me. And as it turns out, it's not always the people you know, it's the people they know that can help you. And that was another thing in Sean's class. We had to write a list of, who can help you get to the next step or who should you talk to. And I would just encourage everyone to always be talking to people about their next step or what they want to do next, because they might not be able to help you, but somebody that they know could. But
yeah.
Go
keep
ahead.
going. Sorry, keep going.
No, so I was going to say the career conversations, the informational interviews helped me build confidence to get internships ultimately. So from those conversations, I got an internship with the athletic department at Santa Clara, which kind of helped inform me. And then every summer after that, I had an internship, not based on really any application, based on people that I had talked to, knew other people. So I'll give an example. I was going to be home. I want to say it was my junior year of college. I was going to be home for the summer. I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and there's no professional sports teams in Albuquerque, New Mexico. There's a minor league baseball team, the Isotopes, but that was really the only place for a formal internship. So going back to the people that who they know, my dad, somebody had asked about what I was doing or what I was up to for the summer, and he had just casually was talking to them. Oh, she's really interested in the sports industry now. And as it turns out, that person knew somebody else that worked for, at the time it was Jackson Winklejohn MMA. And I candidly knew very little about MMA. It was one sport that I really didn't watch, but got at the time the GM of the gym's phone number and gave him a call and said, I'm going to be home for the summer. I know you don't have a formal internship program. I know you can't pay me, or I don't expect you to pay me, but I would love to help you out this summer. And that was one of the greatest opportunities because I was able to see all sides of that business and, first of all, learn about a new sport. And then we did everything from, the paperwork, the fighter contracts, to cleaning the gym sometimes. Went to Pueblo, Colorado, and actually got to put on an amateur fight. And so even that was everything from the contracts to setting up the octagon. And that's kind of when I really found out that I was passionate about events and the event process. And that never would have happened if my dad hadn't been talking to somebody and just casually, telling them what I was up to.
Wow. Well, so I want to go back because you said something. You just called this person who you knew didn't have any internships. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Wait. So let me repeat that for those of you out there listening. You just called this person. You didn't know him, right?
Right.
Okay, so you just called this person who you knew didn't have any internships. Ashley, Ashley, what were you thinking?
I was crazy. No, I never, and that's when I go back to the confidence thing. Never, ever, like I said, when that assignment came, or Sean told us about that assignment, if there were cameras in that room, you would see my eyes were this big. Like, oh no, I cannot do this. But that builds up the confidence to do things like that.
Okay, so you didn't have the confidence, but you did it anyway?
I guess it didn't seem so crazy at the time, but
Okay, so why didn't it seem so crazy at the time?
because I had been doing it. I think the best time to have that kind of experience is when you're a freshman. So people, will often wait until, oh, it's time to find a job. My junior year, I need to, start setting myself up for a job when I graduate. My senior year, I'm, now kind of frantically looking for a job sometimes. And that's not to say I wasn't sending out 80 applications as a senior, but I knew early on as a freshman through those interviews and those conversations that I was going to need the experience, and that was how I was going to have to get it.
Wow. So Sean, when you hear this, right, when you hear the student went and did it anyway, what are you thinking? Because I know this is part of your design, right? This is part of the way you actually design the class for students to go through this in this environment.
Yeah. So going back to what Ashley says, when you ask students to step out of their comfort zone early on in their college education, it pays dividends later. Ashley, if I remember correctly, one of the quotes that I shared with you in the class to help you, all of you, get more comfortable with doing this, cold outreach, was a quote by Marianne Williamson that says, a lot of times it's our light, not our darkness, that we're most scared of how powerful that we might be able to be, right? You said earlier that you couldn't believe the fact that you're a first year in college, and because of this networking assignment about relationship building, you found yourself at the headquarters of the San Francisco 49ers, the San Jose Sharks, and these professional sports teams, right? And that it just reminds me of that quote. Sometimes our light and how powerful that we might be able to become is intimidating as much as other concerns. And then, but when you step out of your comfort zone and you take action and you realize things aren't as scary as you made them up to be in your head, and the fact that professionals like to help students, I can totally see how, a couple years later, when you're trying to find an internship or get some work experience for the summer, making that phone call, your whole mindset related to making a phone call is kind of like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. If I'm going to ask, try and create something out of thin air, knowing that there's nothing posted online about this MMA gym, but I'm going to have a conversation. And that kind of goes back to, almost every week we talk about the hidden job market, and only 20% of jobs and internships are posted online. And that seems like a crazy statistic, but it's true. And Ashley, you're a perfect example for students who are tuning in, to help students have the courage to do more, and have a holistic approach to their internship or their job search, and be both proactive and at the same time, applying to opportunities that are online that they like, but not just relying on that only. So thank you for sharing. It's very powerful.
Yeah, Ashley, I want to ask you this, seriously. Do you think other students could do that? What you did?
If I can do it, you can do it. I promise. I was the most shy freshman, had no idea, like I keep saying, and never did I think I could do it. So I promise if I could do it, you could do it.
That's fantastic. So let's talk about then the process that you went through next of going, going then from this process of reaching out to getting those internships. Talk to us a little bit about how that went.
Yeah, so most of the internships, and man, it's hard to remember them all now, but most of the internships I had, some were posted, some were not. I also interned at the University of New Mexico for a summer, and that was, again, a result of somebody who knew somebody. And I was able to, at the time, I had kind of narrowed it down to wanting to be in marketing. I had declared my major, but also had an interest in kind of the communications PR side of things. That was my other major in college. And so fortunately, because I was able to talk to them and it wasn't an official position, I split my time in the marketing office and the communications office. And again, was able to get that experience in different areas and kind of help inform my career and my future path, which I ultimately ended up, my first paid job was a sales position, which I swore up and down I would never have.
How did that come about? You didn't want to do it, and then you ended up doing it. Tell us.
It was too good to pass up. So my first paid job was at the Air Force Academy. It was they had just gotten rid of their third-party sales team and were moving it into an inside sales team. So it was going to be brand new. I was going to have kind of a lot of autonomy, and fortunately, I was able in the interview process. My boss at the time was kind of straightforward and understood that most people that started in inside sales in college sports didn't stay for a super long time if they weren't, hell bent on sales. And so he knew from the beginning that ultimately my goal was to be in marketing, and he was able to, help me get that experience in sales, which now I would tell anybody to start there. So,
Okay. Why would you tell anybody to start in sales?
I think it was just the perfect place to, one, get even build up more confidence, even though I was able to do these career conversations, informational interviews. It allowed me to create more relationships with other people. It allowed me to be more confident speaking to other people. And then I think I also had the unique experience, like I said, of being able to kind of build something that didn't exist. So I just had a great experience there. And then from that experience was able to see how the marketing department and the sales department work together, and how, the organization couldn't function without the sales department and getting those fans in the arena. So.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm biased. I think people should start in sales too. So I guess some of the last thoughts as we get ready to wrap up here, if you could share some tips or some thoughts with other students out there who might be feeling just like you did as a freshman or sophomore, or heck, even is a senior, maybe they're uncertain. What advice would you give them?
So Sean probably doesn't know this, but every time I talk to students or interns or whoever, first of all, I never say no. So you're probably not going to get a no when you ask, because they're excited to, give back to you, and they were in your shoes at one point, so they understand what it's like. But two, every time they would ask me what got you into this industry or what got you into sports, I would say my story starts with Sean and that class, and I had this professor, and the rest is history. But that's just been an invaluable experience for me.
Wow, that's awesome. Sean, any last minute thoughts here as we wrap up this conversation here with Ashley?
Just that Ashley's experience, personifies the value of building not only building, but creating professional relationships from scratch. She told a story about how her dad knew someone. But if we were to peel back the layers on all of your opportunities and the people you met, a high majority of them from previous conversations, I know that they were created because of your what's called cold outreach. And, you talked about making a list of organizations and people that could be helpful for you. And that's a key step about being intentional, and then having a process and a method to go out and build relationships. And those relationships sometimes pay dividends right away, as you've shared, and sometimes they pay dividends down the road. And it sounds like, from what we're hearing in your story, Ashley, it developed a self-confidence in you early on that you've continued to build on as you've gone throughout your professional career. So it's really great to reconnect with you, being that you were one of my first students I started teaching in 2010. So you had my class in 2011. So it's really, really great to stay connected.
One of the originals. Well, we're going to wrap up this stream. Ashley, I think, your story is so inspirational to many folks out there. I encourage those of you out there, if you're wondering about this method, feel free to connect with us more. That we actually have an upcoming masterclass this April on the 2 golden rules on how to negotiate your job offer. So Sean's going to be leading that. Of course, we have our student streams every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. And of course, the book is coming out. We're now a little over a month and a half away. It comes out May 18th. Is that the date, Sean?
That's right.
May 18th. You can get a preview of some of the 2 chapters. Actually, if you go to this, you'll get 2 free chapters. You'll see it scrolling across the bottom. And you can get 2 free chapters of the book. And then, of course, when it comes out, you can pick up a copy and you'll get to learn some of the stuff. In fact, in the book, there's even some of those great quotes.
That's right.
Little sneak peek for those of you out there. But that is it. I really want to thank you all for coming and joining our student stream today. Ashley, thank you again so much. This was really fantastic. And we'll see you all soon. Bye-bye, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.